Now, moving right along, we're going to go to the next situation here. And we're dealing with the September the 21st, 1982 letter. And it starts out in, we're going to start out in the first paragraph, third sentence. It says, because time is essential. And as we stated in our organizational preface, we have wasted enough time dwelling on insignificant matters. Now, if we go back to the preface, it said we have wasted enough time dwelling on insignificant matters. Let's prepare ourselves for the world. All right? That's what we're doing right now, men and women, networkers. We're wasting our time dwelling on insignificant matters. Who's this? Who's that? What's this? What's that? He ain't this. He ain't that. She ain't this. She ain't that. This person. Come on, man. Work together. We have work to do. This was in 1982. A couple days ago. That was 41 years ago. Now, that was 40 years ago. Just 3 days ago, it was 40 years ago that this was written. If we go down to the third paragraph, it says, on the streets, our brothers have been diligently involving themselves in voter registration drives. They realize that politics is the science of who gets what, where, when, and most importantly, how. As we previously manifested to you, through business and politics, we can build an economical base that will ensure us boundless power and wealth. This is what direction we are moving in. This direction hasn't changed. This is still the same direction that we are moving in. Let's go back and look at Daley. Daddy Daley. And I'm going to use Daley in Chicago because he became the mayor. A lot of the Irish and Italians and other ethnic groups grew up through gun running, bootlegging, and drug selling and gang banging and everything, right? But they was able to transition out of that and get involved in the political process. They educated themselves. They started sending their people to school so that they can that way they can get themselves up out of the situation that they was in. So these same Irish, Italians, and Polish and Jewish gangsters that was on the streets running these clubs that they call them, the Hamburg Club and all the rest of these clubs, which were none but gangs at that time, but they call them social clubs. These people's way has gone on to run and control the politics in our communities. Think about it now. And they do not want us to rise up out of this same mindset that they rose up out of. Because you know why they don't want us to rise up out of that? You know why they don't want us to become involved in the political process? Because now we can start controlling our own destiny. We start making decisions that best fits us. Now, the brother that said that we got to get to the table so that we can start having a voice at the table. Okay, I guess I can agree to a certain extent. But I want to ask a question. Why can't we create our own table? So now when we create our own table, it gives us power. We become that reckoning power of people so that people will have to come to us. And now we are not voting for just Democrats, or we're not just voting for Republicans. We're not voting for Democrats because that's what our grandmothers and mothers and fathers did. That's what we've been doing for the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years. We're not voting for Republicans because of this is what our uncles and this is what our co-workers are doing. We start voting for our entrance. So therefore, it don't matter the political party. We vote our entrance. So now, if the Republicans bet suits our entrance of things that we want, we'll vote that way. If Democrats want our entrance, I mean, it's supporting our entrance, has our interest in this particular issue at hand, we'll vote this way. So that way, nobody can say, okay, we know we got their vote, and we ain't getting nothing out of it. Trump said it best. Why won't you vote for me? We ain't getting nothing out of the Democrats, and you constantly voting Democrat. He said something then that we have to be mindful of what he said. We just voting because this is what our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents did. We don't know the reason why we voting for these peoples. We don't understand their records. We don't even understand what has happened to us. But we're going to get to that. We're definitely going to get to it. We really finna get to it on what really has happened to us. You know, so let's get to it. Let's continue to get to it. You know, we're gonna go here. Next slide. It says, second paragraph. This is for all of those who say that we shouldn't be educating and that we shouldn't be talking about things, right? This goes to all of you brothers and sisters that are misguided and misunderstood, who really don't know. September the 22nd, 1982. We're going to start at the second paragraph. It says, we want you to be proud of this organization that you represent. We encourage all our members to relate to their families and friends on the street about our direction and encourage them to vote, because your life and their life is on the line. We must utilize our power to vote. For us to be a success on the path that we are traveling, politically, economically, and socially, we need our families to support our efforts / direction. This is the reason why we are educating. Because we want the public to know who we are. We want them to know. And for all of those who say gang, gang, let me continue to read for you. Being a member of this organization is not being tough, but being intelligent, which would dictate respect. We want our message to reach our younger brothers and sisters on the street about our direction and concept. We are not a gang. Let me repeat that. We are not a gang. And not is in capital letters. Say, our youth is our future. Now, when this came out, September the 27th, 1982, that will be 3 days from now, which will be 41 years ago. I was 15 years old. I was the youth that they was talking about. That was me that they were talking about. I was born June 17th, 1967. This letter came out September the 27th, 1982. When this letter came out, I was in the Illinois Youth Center, St. Charles, when this letter came out. I was 15 years old. So let's think about this now. I'm a 15-year-old child. They writing this letter about me. Now I'm sitting here explaining to my brothers and sisters the importance of us understanding who and what we are about. Back to the letter. It says, through communicating with them, you will help us in many ways on the street. Many of you incarcerated here are looked up upon by the youth on the street. Begin to feed them our new concept. Show them from your own experience that caused you to fall into this pit that this has become a gain in your wit. And show them the seriousness of the vote, which will determine their future as well as yours. They were telling the membership then about us voting. So now let's get one thing understood. It was during this time that Young Voters of America came out. How many of y'all remember in my age bracket, that's my age, 55. How many of you can remember me being a young voter? I remember. I remember talking to my parents about going to vote. I didn't understand the reason why I was telling them to go vote. Only thing I was knowing was that our older brothers and sisters were saying, hey, get your family involved in the vote. Show them. Explain to them. So now, I'm telling you all to get your families involved so that they can become registered to vote. I am not telling you who to go vote for. What I am saying is study the candidates, look at their voting records, look at all the things that they have done. If you are planning on voting Republican, Independent, Democrat, whatever you are planning on voting or who you are planning on voting for, know the history of the person that you are voting for. Because this is the person that you will be sending to Congress to represent you. So if you just going in the voting booth and punching Democrat all the way down the line, or you going in the voting booth punching Republican all the way down the line, or Independent all the way down the line, you know what you're doing? You are voting for somebody that 95, maybe 100% of the time don't even represent your interests. Like what Scarface say, they only come around to the black folks when they run their campaigns and they lie to folks. Once you vote them in, they don't know you. Once you vote them in, they can't do jack for you. And that's the person that's representing you. That's the person that becomes your voice. So this is where we have to become more educated. This is where we have to become more knowledgeable of who and what we are voting for.